Goldman Sachs released an article a day or two ago, or a report, where they said that they expect 2/3 of jobs in the US and EU to be like threatened by AI, 300 million jobs worldwide. And the two areas that they think are most likely to be hit are administrative jobs and legal jobs.
Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff. Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff.
Your host, Jamie. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Roy. Roy, it's been 6 weeks since we did this podcast.
That's ridiculous.
I know. And I would say, let's just jump right into it, right? The biggest thing that's happened since is I beat you in a game of chess.
That is pretty big news. It is the first.
That is big news.
It literally
never happened before.
10 minutes ago. It has never happened.
And we played a lot of chess games for a little while there. We play barely ever anymore. But
yeah, we played over
with
100.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
I play by myself a lot these days.
Yeah.
I'm sort of kidding. That really did happen, but certainly that's not the biggest thing. At least to the listeners of the podcast that are interested in NFTs and crypto.
To Jamie Kaplan, it is the biggest news of the decade.
Even that's not true, but it is big. Although
sorry, Kayla, the wedding was good and all.
Yeah. Let's think. It's been a long time. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to just jump right into news of the week, or should we talk about like what we just ate and how we've been and stuff?
Well, you were just in Japan for.
I was in
2
Japan.
weeks.
Yeah, there's reasons that we didn't podcast that I guess we could go over. First, I had my computer broken, and so I bought a new one, but it wasn't going to get here until after I got back from Japan, and then you had to go to India for a wedding, so we just had 3 or 4 things stacked right on top of each other. But we're back.
I want to know what you ate in Japan and what were the highlights, the top 3 things, top 3 meals maybe.
We had what do you call it? The
ramen?
Conveyor belt sushi.
Right.
We had that 2 times, and the second place we went to was really, really good. And that was fun. And that was definitely a thing that so it was me, and then there was 4, 5 of us. And none of them had been to Japan before. So that was like a very Japanese, interesting way of doing it. So we had never actually went to a regular sit down sushi place until we were in the airport on the way out. 3 of us went to one. But other than that, we did 2 conveyor belt sushis that were great. There's also a chain that has popped up. I don't remember it being around while we were there. It's called Gyukatsu something or other. So they basically bread steak, very good steak, obviously, because they got all that well marbled Wagyu out there, and then they basically fry it just for a second to set the crust, and then so it's basically raw but with a little bit of a crust, and then they give you. It's like a set menu, and everybody gets the same thing. You basically just choose how much meat you want. And then there's little hot stone plates for everybody in front of them. And then the steak is sliced. And then so you put each individual piece on there and just kind of cook it to your likings. And then you got your dipping sauces and miso soup and rice. And that was fantastic. We probably tried to go 6 times and could not get in. There's locations everywhere. And so for 1.5 meals a day, we would try and go in and just nope. Too long of a line. We actually waited in line for dinner one of the days for it for probably 15 minutes. And then an employee came out with a sign that said ran out of meat. And we're like, well, I guess that's done. But then somebody in the group was like, hey, why don't we try for lunch? And then we went for lunch 2 days later and got in after a 25-minute wait.
Nice.
And then, I think you may have said 3, but anyway, as you well remember, I think the Tsukiji market in Tokyo, I don't know if you do remember that or not. That one in particular wasn't probably my favorite, but there was basically one in each city we went to. Kuruman in Osaka, Nikishi, I think was the name of the one in Tokyo, but just going around those and just going, I'm going to get a little bit of uni here. I'm going to get a little Kobe beef here. I'm going to get some fruit over here. That is like my favorite way to eat. I had a lot of fun and ate a lot of delicious food at those.
Did you eat any of those giant oysters the size of your head?
I didn't. I don't like an oyster that's bigger than medium sized. I had a good amount of fried oysters while I was there, but none of the giant raw ones.
How about ramen? Did you get any good ramen?
We had some very good ramen. I had ramen, I think the first or second day when it was just me and Courtney there so far. That was duck ramen. That was pretty good. But then we
Mm.
went to Akihabara like 2 nights later and got some very good spicy tonkatsu ramen. That was
Nice.
excellent.
Nice. All right. I'm glad we had to get that out of the way.
What about this wedding in India? Do you want to talk about that? Did you eat any good food there? Any
I did
vindaloo?
actually.
Some good
I
naan?
did not have vindaloo, but had a lot of good naan. So every night, basically, there was a buffet because there's an event basically every night, and
It's
this
like a 3-day
wedding,
thing or whatever.
like I got there on a Wednesday. There was an event on Thursday, one on Friday. Wait, 2 on Friday.
And the events are all just parts of a wedding, basically. They're all just different wedding parties. I don't really.
Yeah, basically, like there's different. There's ceremonies, and then there's usually like the bride side and the groom side have like their own certain events. So, like,
Oh, okay.
there is some
Wow,
stuff
that's
that only, and then you come together, and then there's some combined ones, and it's
right.
yeah.
That must be a fun competition thing in healthy relationships and just terrifying in unreasonable relationships.
Yeah. But it was good. Like every night for dinner at the buffet, I think 3 nights in a row, I found they had like some variation of a goat curry or a mutton curry rather. Yeah, it wasn't goat, it was mutton. And with naan or with roti or something with some chilies, with some onions, and that was like my go-to dish, and it was very delicious.
What part of India were we in here?
So I was there for 5 days. I visited 3 to 4 different cities. So I landed in Mumbai, and then the very next day traveled to Mussoorie, which is north of Delhi, up near the mountains. That was really nice. I'd never been there before. And then we went to Delhi for the last event and last night.
Delhi's like incomprehensibly big, right? The population is just
it's enormous.
Infinite, basically.
I think Mumbai might be larger. Like 20 million, or let me see.
I think it's not.
Of Mumbai.
I'm taking Delhi.
Nation of Delhi. Let's see. Mumbai.
It's an NFT podcast, by the way.
In 2023 is 21,297,000. Delhi is 18,345,000.
Just off by 3 million.
Mm.
Those are both huge, though.
That's crazy. The population of the United Arab Emirates is like 9 million. The population of Australia is less than 30 million. So like one city in India is basically the population of Australia.
2/3 of Australia.
Ridiculous.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it was a good trip though, and good to see a lot of family that I hadn't seen in a very long time. So,
Were they like, wow, look at all your gray hairs?
Literally, yes. It was basically a running joke when I bumped into people I hadn't seen. They're like, wow, you've gone gray. And it also,
I saw a bunch on this side over here from me this morning. I wasn't thrilled about it.
Yeah,
I identify them as coming in over here, but then this morning I looked at it, I was like, shit, they're over here too.
They're popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Because, one of the things people ask is like, oh, what do you do? What are you up to now? Et cetera, et cetera. And it used to be professional poker player. And that took a while to explain and get. And now it's like, now what do I say? So my default response was, I'm in crypto now. And then I was like, well, I got into crypto a couple of years ago. I used to have dark hair. Now look at all my gray hair. And that was the running joke that,
You should have just gone, oh, give me your phone. I'll subscribe you to my podcast. That'll tell you all about it.
Should have done that.
We'd get better numbers. Yeah. What are you thinking?
Missed opportunity. I actually spoke about AI more than I spoke about NFTs.
You're obsessed with it.
I am obsessed. I think everyone should be obsessed with it. And if they're not,
I've read your exact tweet that you do once a day that says that exact same thing.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Although I deleted the Twitter app like 4 days ago.
Interesting.
We'll see how long that lasts. Yeah.
I give it a month.
That would be pretty impressive. Let's actually do the thing though, where we talk about the stuff.
News of the week.
News of the 6 weeks.
Of the 6 weeks. All right. There has been a ton of crypto-related.
So you made this list. I'm looking at it. There's a huge thing that happened like 2 days ago that you didn't even put in here.
I missed.
So I can only imagine how many other things that I can't think of also that are missing. Because 6 weeks is a lot.
6 weeks is crazy.
We used to do these weekly.
What's the huge
the one I'm thinking of is Do Kwon got arrested.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's so many things like that it kind of, so in my mind, it was looped into, so I wrote down like the CFTC is suing Binance, the SEC issued a Wells notice to Coinbase, a whole bunch of like people are being cracked down on for crypto related stuff, and
Yeah.
Do Kwon being a big part of that in Montenegro.
Right. And did you see how stupidly he handled it? I only saw
Not
a little bit of stuff, but
really.
like he was flying with his accomplice, and I think maybe there was a fake passport, but they were like trying to say that they were Costa Rican or something, even though they don't look Costa Rican.
Yeah.
I didn't look that much into it, but I saw a tweet pointing out how foolishly they had done it.
I saw something that was along those lines as well, and they were like, they had 3 passports, 7 laptops, and 5 mobile phones or something.
Yeah,
And they were like pretending they were just like 2 regular people traveling as tourists, or
right.
yeah. Well, that's great.
And then
good news.
Yeah, and then what's been sort of fun is that clip from Kobe's podcast has been resurfacing. I don't know if you remember this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't even know what the podcast is called, to be honest, which is kind of pathetic.
Only.
Up Only, right. So Kobe has a podcast called Up Only, as relevant people in the crypto space. He had one episode basically after Terra Luna blew up, where Do Kwon was on while he was like on the run, but he also had Martin Shkreli on. I think I'm pronouncing that last name right.
Yeah.
And Martin was basically telling him, hey, listen, Do, prison is not that bad. So like, yeah, I hope you don't go, but if you do, it's actually not that bad. And Dude's like, okay, good to know. and now he's there.
There's another, I don't know if it was a clip or like a comment he made, but he was like very publicly saying, yeah, I'm not on the run. I'm not running from anyone. I'm just chilling out in this place, and like, I'm not on the run. And clearly he was on the run in Montenegro, trying to flee to Costa Rica or Dubai. In other legislatory, is that a word? Legislation?
That one would be more judicial than legislative, but
in judicial legal news, the SEC, this is big. The SEC issued a Wells notice to Coinbase, which, do you know what a Wells notice is? I have like a vague understanding of what it is.
I'm equally vague, yes.
Yeah. Basically, they were like, hey, we're like investigating you, and just a heads up. And it kind of caused this cool moment, I think, for like at least a day on crypto Twitter, where like it seemed like literally everyone was like, we support you, Coinbase, we're going to rally behind you. F the SEC and Gary Gensler, and because Coinbase has been really openly trying to work with the SEC and ask for guidance and clarification. And I read a thread where they're like, they had 30 plus meetings with them over the last 2 years, and they keep getting stonewalled and they can't get anything. And like now they're like welcoming this, because they're like, now at least we can go to court and we can prove our case and have a hopefully reasonable decision handed down.
There was another court case recently where the judge ripped the SEC a new asshole. I can't remember. Wish I could remember the name. I don't know if you heard about it, but basically, the same stuff that Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, has been sort of publicly complaining about in the way that the SEC is handling all this stuff. And for the listeners who haven't, read this stuff, I'll kind of give an overview. But basically, they're doing a lot of stuff where they're sort of saying, hey, it looks like you're dealing in unregistered securities. And then you say, which ones of these are unregistered securities? And they won't answer. And you say, why do you think they're unregistered securities? They won't answer. A lot of that stuff. And then in this particular court case, they're basically making vague accusations, but not any actual concrete ones, and then trying to get the defendants to actually prove themselves innocent when when they literally won't even make a specific accusation. And the judge basically laid into them for doing exactly that. God, I wish I could remember the name of the court case.
About this, but
but this was probably 10 days ago or so. This
a
particular
ago in crypto time.
This particular sentencing or whatever, that's not the right word, but from the judge was going around Twitter.
Sort of on a similar note, the CFTC is suing Binance, and I think also specifically CZ from Binance. And one of the interesting side notes to that is that they explicitly call Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Bitcoin, Ether, and Litecoin commodities and not securities. And obviously the SEC has not provided their view yet on, I think they said they think Bitcoin is not a security, but they haven't said that same for ETH or any other coins.
Right. Yeah, that sounds right. And to that CTFC, I believe you're saying?
CFTC?
One of those two. Anyway, they deal with commodities. They're sort of the SEC, but instead of securities, they deal with commodities.
Commodities,
and so that's why
Trading Commission. Yeah.
Okay. CTFC. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Do it one more time.
Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
CFTC. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of this where we don't actually have any legislative clarity, and so there's doing a lot of sort of legislating via enforcement, so to speak, but then also not actually, again, giving any real strict and specific opinions. And the other thing is, on top of the way the SEC was handling all of that stuff, was that their public-facing stance was, hey, just come in and talk to us. It's easy to register with us, all this sort of stuff. And then there's a lot to it. And then obviously that was not really the case because Coinbase was trying. But the other funny thing is Coinbase is a publicly traded company. They explicitly said, this is our business model. And the Security and Exchange Commission said, great, you guys can have an IPO. That all sounds above board. And then a couple of years later, doing the exact same thing that they said, it is frustrating.
Yeah.
It's also like sort of, to me, totally to be expected. It's a huge bureaucracy. There's lots of money involved. There's a lot of people that, can have some say, but don't have, like, for instance, Gary Gensler and the SEC, right? They have some authority, but because they don't have actual very good legislative rules behind them, they don't have, a lot of court cases that are dealing in this space. They can kind of, aside from the fact that they're being dickheads, they can kind of only do what they're doing. And then, eventually have them and Coinbase go like this until we get court cases that actually say what these barely existing laws that we have that we're trying to apply to this, how they matter.
There's a lot to it. Like, we haven't even covered it's not even on our list, like the whole banking crisis, SVB, all of that unfolding, and it's sort of coinciding with it seeming like the US government is coming out after crypto. Like, the White House released some statement being like, we don't believe in crypto, or there was also like a warning. I don't know.
They said they didn't believe that they had value, something to that effect. There was
like
no value to these things.
And then I think,
but they're also unregistered securities, which is
weird.
Yeah. So as far as the SVB thing was concerned, they also, I believe, whatever banking commission or whatever that was looking for them to get sold. Might have been UBS. There's like a lot of stuff going on in the industry, but whatever. The point is, one of them, they were specifically told any prospective buyer of this bank had to jettison all of their crypto business, which is not very free market-y, which whatever.
What I mean, again, slightly related to this is biology basically betting that Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million in 90 days, which was probably about 15 days ago now. So 75 days left to hit $1 million Bitcoin. What did you make of that?
To me, I think it's just a publicity thing. I think he's bullish Bitcoin, but doesn't actually think that will happen, but thinks that he can buy himself lots of headlines and top NFT podcast mentions like he's doing right now by making this outlandish bet. And it seems to be working smashingly because lots of people are talking about him and it as a result.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I can't imagine he actually thinks Bitcoin will hit $1 million in.
He could just bet $1 million, buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin, right? It would be a much better use of capital.
I mean, he's a billionaire, so it obviously is like pennies to him. It doesn't really...
Which is why it's obviously not a simple thing where he's
Right.
going, I'm going to win this money by
Right.
making a good
It's
wager here. It's
well, the other thing
about
is,
something else.
if he wins the bet, he wins $1 million, which is worthless in a world where one like
If it's been hyperinflated to the
Exactly.
point of being used as burning fuel or whatever.
I think I think it's obviously giving him a lot of publicity. I think he has grave concerns of the US banking system, and this is like his way of raising the alarm. It's kind of like how he's phrasing it. And we are starting to see cracks, I guess, continuing to form in the US banking infrastructure and the US dollar. And I think like I saw a couple of headlines today, like China and France conducted some big international trade and they didn't use US dollars as sort of like the trade currency. And like 12 Southeast Asian countries have banded together and they're like also rejecting the US as like their reserve or like their currency of trade and opting for some, I don't know what they're opting for, but I could
renminbi perhaps.
Maybe, yeah. I think there's a lot of uncertainty about the US dollar and the banking situation. I do not think we'll hit $1 million Bitcoin, but I think he'll be directionally correct, where we'll see like, who knows what will happen to the price of Bitcoin.
It was going well at the beginning, but I feel like it's already pulled back a little. Although I don't follow it
today's
day to day
like
all
up
that
again,
closely.
so it's been And some of it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like he says that he gets all this publicity, then everyone in the space and even mainstream media picks up about it. And now all of a sudden it's looking at Bitcoin. All of a sudden,
and then he can also literally just buy Bitcoin himself, put additional buy pressure on it.
Yeah.
Sell US dollars maybe, but that's a much bigger market. That's very tough for an individual to hurt.
Yeah. Well, 75 days to go. We'll see where it ends up.
See how woefully far off he gets.
Yeah.
Speaking of this is totally off topic and barely worth mentioning, but do you remember, I guess it was a year and a half ago or whatever at this point, somebody bet against DeesFi that Funk floor was going to be higher than the Punk floor. Oh my God. So stupid.
That. Yeah. I think it resolved in December, so like a few months back. It was a year-long bet, and
it was a floor of 60 versus a floor of 0.01 or something, like not even close.
It was it was ridiculous. Free money for Dees.
And every human on Earth with a brain either didn't care or knew for a fact that Punks was going to win. What was that guy thinking?
That was I think a way more clear publicity thing where clearly that guy.
But it doesn't seem like he was going to reap the reward. Like it wasn't.
Let's say he had 500 Funks and that bet and the publicity made the floor price go up like 10%.
But did it?
I think it did make it go up.
Maybe. It seemed to me people. Like it. Yes. All right, let's actually start knocking things off of this list because we've got a lot of stuff on the list. I don't think we've covered a single one of them yet, and there's like 9 on here. I guess we've mentioned 2 of them, right?
3. The middle 3.
3.
Let's start at the top then.
Ticketmaster.
Did you see this?
If it was a while ago, I think I did, but if it was very recent, no.
It was in the last week, basically.
Okay, I did not see this then.
There's this band 7. Oh, I should look up the name. Give me 1 second. There's a band where they had an NFT collection, a 10K collection that they sold a while back. Avenged Sevenfold is the name of their band. And basically they're doing a tour and they worked with Ticketmaster. So this is like the pilot program where they allowed anyone who owns one of their NFTs, maybe like they had like a 24-hour or whatever hour grace period to log in, verify through Ticketmaster that they're a holder of this collection, and they could select what seats they wanted and pay a reasonable price without fear of scalpers. And there was exceptional response to it. Like of the NFT holders in that community, I think like 20% of the total tickets were sold via these holders, and like a whole bunch of tweets of people saying, I got my tickets for like $200, $250. I got great seats. And then, now they cost 3 or 4x that amount for much worse seats. And it's just, to me, really awesome proof of concept. Like this is a great way to use NFTs. And it's cool to see Ticketmaster embracing it, because you'd think that Ticketmaster might be a little fearful of it kind of disrupting their business model. But
yeah, interesting. I guess I'll have to look more into it, maybe read an article just to see actually how the mechanics of it super work. But yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of companies sort of like Ticketmaster that are in a place where you can sort of embrace it or not embrace it. But the technology is sort of coming anyway.
Hmm.
So you might as well try and embrace it and kind of have it under your umbrella in some capacity
Yeah.
rather than have it just go around you, which it's technologically capable of doing.
Yeah. I thought that was like, I think this is one of the best use cases of NFTs in terms of like mainstream. Like people always say, like, how is it going to like solve a real world problem? There's a very real problem of like scalpers buying all the tickets to events and then selling them for a high price and like actual fans missing out. And this is a great way to avoid that. And one of the main core members of the band, I saw a Twitter thread. He was like tweeting out as like, we're going to find ways.
He's a main
to, like,
core member, huh?
he's one of the main members, core members, founders, lead singer.
He's just a member of the band. Do they have like ancillary members that are not that important or something?
Maybe. But anyway,
who would you say are the main members, the main core members of the Beatles?
The four of them.
Oh, okay. If you're forcing me to, though, I would say Paul and John, and then the other two are just a little bit more ancillary. I'm a big George Harrison fan, though, personally. But anyway, go on.
When Beatles NFT? What was I saying? Yeah, so this person tweeted out basically saying to their large fan base outside of Web3, we're considering
their core fan base.
Core fan base. We're exploring like the ability to give our true fans access to tickets, even if they don't hold one of these 10,000 NFTs. For instance, the people who have listened to the most hours on Spotify or maybe have attended previous concerts. And then he was like, who would be interested in this? You'd have to download like a digital wallet. It would cost you nothing. You just have to go and claim. And like still like 40% of people were like, I don't want that. That's awful. And evil. But 60% said yes, which is actually better than I would have expected.
Yeah, no, it makes, I mean, we've talked about this before, definitely when we were doing like the predictions. I was saying specifically because I care more about sports than I do about music, I guess. I talked very much about fandom within sports and the teams officially using NFTs as a way to reward fans and identify fans and all of that. And this is very much that, but just for a band, Yeah. And it's a very obvious use case for them. And it's also, in some ways, it's not a specific use case. It's sort of a just a sphere or like a universe of use cases, right? Where the idea is just to have, rather than like in Web 2, you might have an email list of your fans, right? Now we have the wallet addresses of your fans, or possibly the wallet addresses of people who have this specific NFT to be your fans. And now all of the ways that we can use that information, and they can use that information, and other people can use that information.
Yeah.
And the frictionless nature of moving things, within this ecosystem and stuff.
It's very exciting. And we're just going to see more and more of it. I'm sure a lot of, like, every sports event and team will eventually have some sort of incorporation to this. So,
speaking of sports teams, do you watch Ted Lasso?
No. I've heard it's great, though.
It is very good. And the third season just started. Okay, enough of that.
I just started rewatching The Office, and by that I mean I say I've watched one episode of it, episode 2, because I saw this clip, and it's the Diversity Day episode, and it's really funny. What a great show!
It is a great show. The first season, I think, is definitely, some of the stuff later on gets bad, but they don't really hit their stride until season 2. The Michael character specifically, they changed him a lot. And they were doing a lot of sort of copying of the British Office before it kind of became its own thing in season 2.
Have you seen the British Office?
I have not, actually. But this is my understanding of what happened.
Yeah.
Not watching it?
Yeah. I mean, I love The Office. I love Ricky Gervais.
There's a million things. Like, I haven't seen Better Call Saul. The one that I've gone to for years. I still haven't seen The Sopranos, which is like very old and revered at this point.
I haven't seen I haven't seen Star Wars.
I haven't seen The Godfather 2. I have seen Godfather 1. We could go all day with things we haven't seen or read here.
This is again a nice-ish segue over to Disney. Speaking of movies, Disney let go of like their entire metaverse or something department recently. Not that surprising. I think the metaverse space is a little bit, well, it's certainly far less hot than it was in 2021. It's part of like some massive layoff of like 7,000 people. Every big company is moving thousands of people. Microsoft got rid of their entire AI ethical team, which is something. But yeah,
worrisome maybe is
yeah,
the word.
I did hear that like that is like OpenAI still has an ethical team, but like Microsoft, the company on their big, doesn't. But so it's still not a great move. But yeah, Disney, will eventually be into the NFT space. I'm sure of it, but it seems like, and the metaverse, but it seems like,
and they already sort of still are, right? I mean, there's as we've talked about before, Vivi has NFTs that are officially licensed of their intellectual property. But yeah, if you think sort of about what the potential and the purpose sort of the metaverse is, I think it has to do a lot more with, like non-walled gardens for intellectual property, for instance, and sort of a new form of world building and stuff like that, in a way that the incumbents, and Disney being definitely the biggest and most powerful in terms of intellectual property and world building there is, doesn't really need to do that, So when it looked very hot, they'll go, okay, we'll dip our toes in and see if there's a way for us, because they're always happy to take their existing intellectual property and expand it into new mediums if those mediums are good. But because it's still very theoretical, the return on their time and money is just not there for them right now. They'd rather just keep working on all the other stuff. And then theoretically, the idea would be that, the Web3 natives would be the ones that stick around and build, which you're kind of seeing with like Yuga and Animoca. And there's some third company that's very big into building the Other Deed thing with them. I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
10KTF.
Nope.
No.
They're like 8 years old, but...
Oh, Improbable Games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Improbable Labs, maybe.
Improbable Labs, yeah. Another great segue. On our list, we got Other Side, Second Trip, and The Legends of Mara. Did you...
I don't know what The Legends of Mara is.
Ooh, all right. I think you'd actually like this a lot. So I don't know too much about it, but like 2 or 3 days ago, Yuga Labs just announced, hey guys, we're releasing a 2D strategy game. Anyone who has an other deed for Other Side is going to be able to claim one for free. So already this is a 100K NFT collection. Anyone who has a coda will be able to like decouple their coda from the land, and like coders will have a special place in this world. It looks awesome. It sounds awesome. And
I wish I still had another deed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're probably still not even. Yeah, I'm sure they're way less now than what you sold yours for. So
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, cool. Yes, but then this is where you run into a little bit of the very valid criticism from various people, especially gamers, right? Where I go, okay, well, I do love a good new strategy game, and if I want to get into it, I can get these very cheap Other Deed for $1,700, or I can buy this game for $45. This other game.
I'm unclear on whether you need one of these things to play, or it's just like additional, like it's a special perk.
Yeah, I'm extremely unclear because I only heard about it 30 seconds ago on this podcast.
Yeah,
but that sort of thing is sort of
it's one of the
something that you hear about.
Yeah.
I think the successful ones will generally be things that are much more of a free to play thing, and then you just sort of get bonuses, whether they be purely cosmetic or not. Probably some of each, I would think, by having these NFTs.
I agree. Yeah. It's
also probably perhaps some sort of like you could have different matchmaking lobbies and formats, as well as not just having all of it being played the same, right? With some advantages for the NFT people. You could also play around with formats and stuff like that.
tiers of rewards and prizes. You know, if you have NFTs, you can win other NFTs and other cosmetics, and if you don't, you have a lower drop rate or all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool to see Yuga just doing all this stuff, and like I would say 2022, after they did the big crazy liquidity suck drop of other Ds, they were pretty silent for like a lot of the year, and now it's like we're seeing, you know, things happen again. It's cool to see.
Yeah, it's. I think there's also a little bit of it that is relative to where, you know, and not to beat a dead horse, but this is something that we've talked about for a while, right? A lot of the tier 3-ish projects, and even tier 2, and even some of the ones that we thought were tier 1 for a while, right? They've run out of funding, they've run out of excitement, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're seeing, you know, not just that Yuga is continuing to build, but that the contrast between them and everybody else is maybe getting bigger as other people run out of, again, all of the things that you need funding and attention being, I would say, the two biggest ones.
I saw a bunch of, so they had their second trip for Other Side last weekend, and I saw mixed reports. Like some people were like, it was really cool
I saw,
and fun.
So the first one, I feel like everybody on Twitter loved it. The second one, I felt like there was a lot of people. Now, I didn't participate in either personally. I saw some videos of both. The main criticism I saw basically in the second one was just that in the amount of time that has transpired between 1 and 2, they didn't put enough new stuff in. I also saw a couple people that were very excited about it and saying they got more bullish, blah, blah, blah. But overall, much more of a mixed / negative sentiment than the first one.
I would agree. And I didn't participate in the second one.
Did you participate in the first one then?
I did. I jumped around and had some fun. And, a little bit. Actually, no, I didn't. I
didn't remember you doing that.
Before the first trip, they had like a load test thing, and that's what I participated in. Just jumped around. But I didn't play the actual the first trip.
The one where there was like a big thing that you all had to attack.
No, I didn't do that. I did see a bunch of tweets. Actually, maybe it was one tweet and then a whole bunch of copy pastas of it, where someone was like, "Yuga is too big to fail," and we should all be rooting for Yuga to succeed, because if they fail, then it's the one project that a lot of like the Web2 gamers and normies, especially after like Mongrel won the thing, and like everyone's looking at Yuga now. And if it fails, people are like, see, NFT gaming is not a thing. They couldn't even pull it off. And there's like some truth and validity to that, but I think there's like a bunch of other cool games coming up, like Parallel, the trading card game. There's a lot of cool stuff.
That actually reminds me, there's another thing that I feel like should have been on this list. Do you know who Dr. Disrespect is?
It sounds familiar, but no.
He's a very big streamer. Like I'm not into the video game streaming enough to know this for sure, but I think he's like a top 3 streamer. He's got a mustache. He's kind of like a big white guy, and he's kind of playing a character. Like he kind of acts like a dickhead or whatever. Dr. Disrespect is the name he goes by. And I think he plays mostly shooters, but he is now doing, my understanding is it's an NFT game that's a first-person shooter, and he's pushing it, and he's a huge person in the video game streaming space. Like him and Ninja are probably the two, maybe Pokimane or something like that, third one. That people know of as being sort of household names.
Nice. Yeah, I just did some quick Googling. One of the articles is streamer Dr. Disrespect doubles down on blockchain games. Another one says, is Dr. Disrespect moving to Kick? ? Banned Twitch streamer fuels rumors. So maybe he got banned on Twitch for being too disrespectful.
I think he came up in like Fortnite, and now he can just sort of play whatever and has a huge audience.
Speaking of Fortnite, did you see like the recent clips of their newest version or whatever?
Like the map editor or something like that?
People are making like anything in there. I saw like someone basically made Elden Ring. Someone made like a motorcycle game. And it was kind of funny because it came out the same time as like the Other Side trip. And then it was like, all right, Yuga's doing this. And then Fortnite is just like this amazing, mind-blowing break the internet upgrade.
Now, what I only saw, I think I saw less of it than you. Like I probably hovered over a Twitter video. What is the mechanism by which people are creating this? Is it still sort of like a drag and drop type thing that you saw?
I don't know. I think it's
Okay, because I saw another thing.
Mm.
Sorry to step over you, but since you said you didn't know, I guess
I
there's not
don't
too much
know.
to expand
Yeah.
on. But you know who Unity is, right?
Yeah.
They basically have. It seems like they sort of have the AI of like Dolly and Midjourney and GPT-4 or whatever, but for their sort of assets now, to where you can basically go, give me a sci-fi world with
Yeah.
some of this, and it'll fucking spit some shit out, and then you can edit it by
So
going,
crazy.
make the planets a little bit bigger and the moon's
Yeah.
a little bit smaller, bang, and it's just the degree to which people are able to create and are going to be able to continue to create without needing all of the technical know-how is just fantastic.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing. I saw some other Unity news. It was about a month or two back, but they partnered with, I think, MetaMask, and basically will allow game builders to just like integrate blockchain wallet like natively into like, so like you're running around a game and you go speak to whatever shop clerk.
NPC?
Yeah, NPC, and they're like, "Hey, would you like to buy this?" Sure, and then click on buy, and then this might have happened while we were away. Did you look at or see what happened with ERC 4337 account abstraction?
I saw that it came out and that some people thought it was interesting. I did not really read into it. I think I sent myself a link to a white paper or the equivalent article about what it did.
So it's
maybe Vitalik's post. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like a game changer. So it's been in the works for 18 months now, and basically we have smart contracts. This is basically a way to have like smart accounts, smart wallets, effectively. And so one of the benefits is that you'll be able to create like EVM mainnet compatible wallets without a seed phrase. You can use like your biometrics from your phone and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but a couple of other things. One is you can bundle transactions. So instead of having to like approve the collection and list it and then, all this other stuff, you can just do it in one. And another is you can like pre-approve transactions for a certain app for a certain amount of period of time, for a certain amount of like money or whatever. So if you're playing a game, like Zrun, for instance, where we used to play a lot, you have to click a lot of every time you want to enter a race. You could be like, all right, I'm going to sit down for a 1 hour session and just like anytime I sign a gasless transaction on this app, bang, it works. And like that's like running around in these worlds now. You don't have to pop up anything. It's just like, all right, I'll just buy it, and automatically your wallet balance goes up and down, which I think it's kind of a game changer.
That is very smart. Now, all that stuff, when you hear like time and stuff related to smart contracts, all that is related to blocks, right? It all actually gets translated in this many blocks, right?
I believe so.
They're not using like an oracle that's pointing at a clock.
I don't think so. Like Ethereum blocks are every 5 to 10 seconds, and
yeah, so you can any reasonable amount of time can be divisible by them very easily.
All right, so hello.
Yeah, hello.
My I don't know. I guess Siri happened. The clock just opened on my laptop and it said 8 minutes and 25 second timer starting now.
Strange.
Yeah, I'm gonna close that. And AI is getting a little too powerful.
For the people that are only listening and not looking, Roy has a look of concern and fear on his face.
I was just like, wait,
confusion, fear, and concern.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
We were talking about gaming
accounts, time, blocks.
Yeah. Ethereum 4337 or something. EIP.
Yeah,
ERCs.
And games and Unity and
But no, specifically the thing that we were talking about was you were explaining to me what this new account abstraction can do.
Yeah. So I mean it's all those things. It allows subscription models are now like natively possible on chain. So like instead of the way it currently works, you have to like approve, you have to deposit into like a WETH pool and then they can withdraw X amount per month. It's just like natively built into your account. So you can like pre-approve a smart contract to withdraw this amount of money from your account every month. And I think that's just, I guess, not natively built into ETH. So you'd have to wrap it and do all other stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like the practical realities of not having the money in your account or whatever. But I guess the same thing would apply to a Netflix account if your bank account just
Exactly.
doesn't have the money at the time.
Yeah.
As long as they're not, you don't need to be billing every month unless you're planning on delivering discreetly every month or whatever like that. So,
Yeah.
there's not really necessarily a way around it.
And the last like cool thing I can remember about 4337 is the ability to pay the gas or transaction fees on behalf of someone else. So currently, you want to buy a free or mint a free NFT, even on Polygon, you need like a fraction of gas or whatever. And
So
this, yeah,
sorry, a minute ago you were talking about how some 40% of people were saying they weren't that interested in getting these free things. And this was something that I was thinking about, is that if it's not airdropped, if it's a claim, these people that are just creating a wallet out of nothing are still not going to have enough gas, even if it's on a layer 2 and it's only like a penny. They're not going to actually be able to do that, which adds a lot of friction and exacerbates that idea of people thinking this is just some sort of scam.
Yeah. They said it's free, but I got to sign up and then deposit and get $1 or $5 worth. I think that you can do it that way, but it's like a custodied solution. So you set up a custody digital wallet, and they're like, all right, you get your NFT, but then if in the future you want to withdraw it to your self custodies, that's when you have to pay gas or any money. But yeah, account like 4337 kind of solves that as well. If you want to pay a penny for everyone or something like that. So cool stuff.
That's cool.
What else do we have? AI GPT plugins, AI petition.
What's AI petition, Roy?
So sometime in the last like 24, 36 hours, a petition started circulating where effectively this bunch of prominent figures in the world and a ton of like researchers came together, and they're like trying to, and I don't think this will ever happen, but the petition is like, AI is moving way too fast. We petition all AI labs to put a halt on AI research beyond GPT-4 and focus on like how to progress safely and consider about like some of the concerns of like artificial information or like synthetic information. Who knows what's true? Who knows what's not? And like even more significant things. And it was like signed by. Why are you smiling? Why are you smirking?
Because it's one of these things that, to me, right? This is Jamie speaking here. This is my opinion. They're unquestionably correct, and there's a 0% chance that it will like.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the kind of thing we should be concerned about. But of course, that nobody gives a fuck.
I feel like it's in many ways.
It's like nuclear weapons. It's like, oh, we should not make more powerful ones. It's like, yeah, but if they're gonna, we're gonna.
Yeah.
It's just there's no way. Humans are too shitty to be able to be able to rein back the dangerous technologies. It's just totally we're fucked.
I see it almost similar to like biology's bet, where it's like it's never going to happen, but like maybe it'll get enough attention that people start talking about it, and lo and behold, we're talking about it. Like Yuval Noah Harari signed it, Steve Wozniak signed it, Andrew Yang signed it, Elon Musk, and then like a thousand. Like you look through the list, and it's like Professor Emeritus of Artificial Intelligence at this university, and then Professor at this university, and like Dean of this university. And it's just like, all right, so like everyone kind of agrees that this should happen, and even but it's not going to happen. It's just it's not going to happen. Yeah. So that's the petition. The other thing on the list is the GPT-4 plugins. Did you see these?
I did see them. It's pretty amazing. I think I saw somebody explain it as basically Chat GPT got a computer or something to that effect.
Connects to the internet.
Yeah, connects to the internet is another way to phrase it, basically. But, it's sort of amazing. And it also, I'm sure you saw a lot of this where people are sort of talking about how tough theoretically it is for all these like AI startups or whatever that thought they were doing a thing. And now every week there's a new update that just completely destroys your entire business model because we don't need you as a middleman.
Yep.
We can natively do this.
Yeah. It's got to be a terrifying space to be building in. Like, it just
sort of
advancing. It's exciting as well. I think AI is just like,
It
to
depends
me.
on what you're building, right? Because a lot
Yes.
of the people are trying to build things where it's like, hey, you use AI and we'll just help you use it,
Mm,
which is that's where it feels like you're just sort of a semi worthless middleman that can
hmm
be cut out very soon. But if you're actively using the actual game changing technology, right, to
Yeah.
do something rather than trying to somehow gatekeep this
Yes.
technology that you didn't create,
Yeah.
and sort of act as a filter for unsophisticated people that don't really understand that
hmm
they don't need you. There's a very big difference between those
Yeah.
two types of sort of building to me.
Yeah. We're gonna see. I mean, there's a lot of people in that last category, and I think we're gonna keep seeing them pop up and then fade away as they
Yeah.
become obsolete very
But,
quickly.
as long as they raise a $30 million round first, a lot of them probably
Yeah.
won't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it. I'm so excited for the plugins. Like, just literally today, Rachel and I were booking our flights to America and stuff, and it takes a long time to be like, all right, we're gonna be in this city at this time, and this city and this day, and then all right, what are the cheapest flights, and then all right, connections and yada yada. Go through search and save it here, and then like GPT will just be able to like, you just tell it like, hey, I want these, like, help me, and then it'll
Yeah. I
just
mean,
yeah.
Bard, I would think Bard would be good at that too. Bard, by the way, for everyone listening, is Google's
Mm,
version of Chat GPT, essentially. But they,
yeah.
they already have Google Flights. So they very much have
hmm
all of that stuff sort of ready to go.
Yeah,
They
but
just
like,
need the AI to interpret the words well enough.
yeah, the plugins are, they're already connected to Expedia and Kayak.
Expedia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is, yeah. I mean, I'm, yeah, excited and
But I mean,
terrified.
again, Google Flights, Google is connected to all of them. And they
Yes,
have plenty of data and plenty of, machine learning
my
researchers. So
clock
if they
alarm
can
just
make
went off.
Bard, hmm? Your
My
clock
clock
is
alarm that Siri set 8.5 minutes ago just went off.
um so that's just
Mm.
a particular use case that has come up recently that it seems like Google should hopefully be able to do well at. It is
That was
sort of
it.
interesting. I don't know if you've seen, but the amount of time that humanity has spent making fun of Bing and talking about how they
Yeah.
could never possibly beat Google, and now possibly with the Chat GPT integration, they'll be
Yeah.
able to. It's sort of a funny
I just saw today someone said that they
reversal.
were moving all their browsing over to Bing because of the natively usable AI in the
I have
browser.
not done that yet, but
Yeah.
it's
Or
possible I will.
Microsoft Edge, sorry. Yeah.
I'm using Google still as my main search engine, but a lot of times when it's just sort of I'm curious intellectually about a topic that I would start off
Mm,
Googling, now I'll have a conversation with ChatGPT instead.
yeah. I'm slowly finding myself go to ChatGPT more and more. Like today, my ear is sore. I woke up and I was like, I have a sore ear. What's going on? Obviously, go to Google, but then I was like, hang on a second, and just went to ChatGPT, and it's just like
I
quicker than
saw
Google.
it saved someone's dog's life on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that or
Wow, I did
not.
not see that. That's awesome.
So their dog was sick and went on some medication for something. Um, and then it sort of seemed kind of like the medication worked a little bit, but then they were backsliding,
Mm,
and they had like all of the blood work for the dog, and the vets were a little bit confused. They basically just had, hey, here's the blood work for my dog, and then they were able, with the stuff that they knew personally from the dog and from the
mm,
vet or whatever, to eliminate a couple things. So when ChatGPT was saying these, it was going like, what are other possibilities besides this? And
mm.
they found some sort of obscure thing. And they went to another vet and said, hey, I think maybe it's this obscure thing. They checked it. It was that, yada, yada. Saved the
That's
dog.
amazing.
Saved the dog's life.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's like,
It is amazing.
yeah, we're gonna see more and more of that
Yeah.
as time goes on. Yeah.
Right now, I mostly just use it for identifying mosses that I find in the woods, but other people use it for different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I use it. I don't use it as much as I should still, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Especially for the way you tweet,
I think I'd be
you
using it all
sound like
day,
you'd be
every day.
using it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. I this every day there's like a dozen new tools that seem to be just coming out that are just like blowing my mind when it comes to AI, and it's
Yeah.
yeah.
It is crazy. Um, excuse me. It also does seem like they're sort of converging towards one thing, right? To where
Mm,
I think we probably even talked about this on our last episode 2 goddamn months ago, but to where people are going to say chat GPT and going, hey, write me a script for this scene or whatever, and then filtering that into one of these um like image softwares going, hey, here's a description of a character, make this, and then feeding that into a video thing going, hey, here's my image, now make an animation of that. The degree to which we're kind of combining all of these little pieces, and then the ChatGPT plugins are a good example of this, right, where we have this very powerful thing here, ChatGPT, and then we have this sort of real world stuff over here, and they're separate. Now we're kind of connecting it. The degree to which it's all just going to be able to be run through one thing that can give you take input of sound or video or images or text. This is the word I was looking for, and give you sort of any type of output that you want, including interacting with all of these other things. That is all going to be much more seamless. And like we were alluding to earlier, the people that are trying to make entire businesses out of that, for the most part, are probably going to fail because these things can basically just program themselves, right?
Yeah.
They can write their own code and improve themselves and connect themselves to all of this stuff in a way that they don't need these shitty middlemen to do.
Yeah. It's going to make everyone obsolete slowly and surely.
Yeah. Maybe not that slowly though.
Yeah, maybe not that slowly. Like you're talking about, like, you enter some text and then get an image and put it in. We're just not that far off. You enter some text and you've got like a 5-minute animated video clip
or like an hour. Like how long does Netflix exist when I can go, show me a movie that is science fiction but pulls on my heartstrings and has to do with terraforming Mars, and it'll just fucking do it,
And and also just like, this gets us closer to the Matrix, where like currently you sit down, you watch a Netflix show, it's really great, you binge and you watch a whole season in like one night or 2 days. What if it just never ends? You just get to the end of the season, It's like one more episode. You're like, okay. You go to sleep, you wake up, one more episode. It's just like, it's infinite, awesome, excellent content. That's just like...
Yeah, and that actually kind of reminds me of circling back to the beginning of the episode when we were talking about Disney, the degree to which they've been in the old-fashioned way of actually creating these things themselves rather than having a computer do it. They're getting vaguely close to that with Star Wars and Marvel content, to where if you're a big enough fan of these things, you can basically watch. Now, at this point, it's probably like 20 minutes per day. If you took all the new episodes and all the new movies that they're creating of this perpetually, you could just constantly be taking in new stuff. If you just made it slightly less than the amount, because there's not a new episode every day and there's not a new movie every week, but it's close enough that if you chopped them all up, it's getting close.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting. That will be interesting to see the degree to which they kind of what am I trying to say here? Accept, embrace the degree to which they'll embrace this kind of thing. And it's also obviously, there's going to be huge battles because Disney in particular, if we just want to stay on that, they've built their entire business on the back of artists, writers, and actual visual artists. And the degree to which AI is making those things largely obsolete, especially when you have all of this data that Disney can just plug in of going, here's all of the Daredevil content, here's all of the Avengers content, here's all of the Star Wars content that has ever existed before. Now give me some more of it that's, this or that. That's totally new and takes place 1,000 years in the future, or that is, what was it like when Yoda was 7, or just anything, right? And so that'll be interesting because obviously you'd think they'd want to use this technology, which they would, but the amount that it's going to piss off the people that have built them up from day one is another thing. And then of course you have to worry about how much your fandom hates the idea of it or doesn't. because
Well,
at the end of the day, they're doing this not to make stuff, but to make money from making
Right.
stuff. And if the fans rebel and go, we only want stuff from humans, which I think, once the content is good enough from
Yeah.
AI, they for the most part won't care. But there'll definitely be people, at least at first, that are very resistant to it.
And I mean, speaking of fans as well, there's a whole thing of, well, Disney can go in and add everything, but a fan could just go in and upload like an entire season or all of the Marvel videos themselves.
But
to an
not necessarily legally, right?
That's the thing. It's not necessarily illegal, but then like, where do you like fan fiction, and where do you draw the line between fan fiction and like fan art, and then fan video clip, fan episode, and it's just like,
right.
And if literally everyone on Earth can do it and create their own shows, then yeah, it's just a weird future.
Yeah, so that's sort of the other thing, is that when you have, like, we were talking about the gatekeeping concept and stuff like that, right? But to some extent, like at some point, ChatGPT itself is also sort of gatekeeping this, large language model, machine learning type stuff that any of us could theoretically spin up once we have, if you have enough computing power and you have enough data, which both of those things only get cheaper as time goes on, a lot of this technology is rather open source, right? You don't need them actually to do it. And so you could say, well, Disney can work with ChatGPT to say, to check if anything that they're getting put into it is copyrighted stuff that we won't allow you to build off of or whatever, without paying us a token fee, perhaps. That could be a way to do it. But then you go, okay, well, these people can just spin up their own large language models with their own computing power and their own data sets. And now you don't have to do that. And, I guess in some level you could go back and try and add these sort of sophisticated watermarks to all of the stuff, but all of the stuff that doesn't have it already exists out there. So you just save it to a hard drive, and now, okay, you tried to scrub the internet of the stuff without the watermarks and push it with that. But lots of us already have the DVDs where we can scrape it off of that doesn't have it. And so it's very whack-a-mole, like in the ways that they'll be able to actually try and protect that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just an uphill battle, and yeah, it's just gonna be a wild year, honestly. 2023, the year of AI.
You think it'll calm down? 2024 won't be a big deal.
No, it's gonna get even crazier.
Yeah, so it's not going to be a big year. It's just going to. Yeah. I mean, so the two, if you want to talk about that kind of misinformation and stuff, I feel like my microphone looks like it's peaking a little bit. I'm going to put down two things. How do I sound now? Good still?
Yeah, fine.
It was kind of going into the yellow. But anyway, in terms of that sort of election misinterference type thing happening, the two things that I think we've seen recently that have been sort of big to people, right, is that there was the rumor that Trump was going to get arrested in New York. And we saw a series of AI generated images of him being arrested that went somewhat viral. And then the other thing was that we had an image of the Pope in a puffy white jacket. I don't know if you saw that one. That also went semi-viral. That looked very real, and people thought it was real, and it wasn't. Those are just sort of some early versions of that type of thing that people have thought about and talked about, and is now slowly starting to happen. It's kind of almost. Go ahead.
I was going to say the Pope one I saw, and I didn't realize it was fake until later on when I saw it in the context.
Looks very real. It almost looks like you can guess, not by how not real it looks, but that he looks a little bit too cool or something. Like the Pope wouldn't be. It's almost like streetwear in a way.
Yes.
But the fact that it's all white, you're like, well, if he's sufficiently cold, maybe. But the degree to which all of this technology is just moving really fast, right, and becoming really sophisticated and good, the amount that it's been used for nefarious things so far, to me, seems very minimal, which is a pleasant place to be in, and probably will not last long. So maybe we should just enjoy it while it's here.
I give it a couple months.
So far, it's been, to me, very curious people, and then like also probably a decent amount of just like the bland grinder types, where it's like, how do I come up with some sort of scheme to make money? I'm going to give it $1,000 and tell it what Amazon product products to buy and
Right.
resell, like that kind of lame thing, which is still not as bad as trying to fool a democratically electing body with some bullshit, right? But it's not as nice as identifying mosses in the forest with it, like I do.
One of the more nuanced and convincing ways I saw of people using it for nefarious reasons was there were a bunch of video clips that started spreading, I think on TikTok, maybe on all the like shorts and platforms, of Joe Rogan interviewing someone, and they were just like talking about like a product and like, hey, do you use this supplement? Oh yeah, I do. Great. And then like a link to it, and it was like completely artificial and generated. And like there's never this conversation. It was just like there's like almost like subtle shilling of a product, and yeah,
Right.
we're gonna get an infinite amount of that in not a very long time.
I saw some podcast that's basically just completely fictional interviews between two people. Yeah, I think maybe Joe Rogan was one of the first.
Joe Rogan interviewed Steve Jobs was the first one. I think the second one might have been Feynman and someone else, which
Richard
Feynman, correct. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole other thing of just like bringing people back from the dead effectively. Like in practice, it'll be just like the analogy I go to is like in Harry Potter, the talking picture frames. You can have that in real life. We just upload, especially people like in today's day and age who have like a ton of recorded content, audio, video, text, their likeness. It's just like, oh yeah, now when a relative passes away, you just have them on the wall and you can say good morning to them every day and have a conversation and tell them. It's going to mess with people's heads so much.
Probably the way you say that makes it sound negative, which there'll be lots of, but I bet you that it'll also mess with people's heads in a very pleasant way in a lot of cases as well.
A lot of therapeutic reasons for a lot of these technologies too.
I would also think maybe specifically for like people with dementia and stuff like that, there might be a lot of really nice ways to keep these people sort of happier and less confused.
Yeah. What a wild future we're headed into, and it's happening so quickly. Like
it's very fast. And you know, as your tweets that I like to make fun of allude to, very few people are aware to the degree that at least let's say we are, right? Even though maybe, you know, your tweets might say even we aren't grasping the totality of how big of a paradigm shift it is. But there's a lot of people that just don't care at all, have never used any of them, and don't think that they're that big of a deal necessarily, for a variety of reasons.
Go on.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Loopify made a great tweet or an interesting tweet. I think it was him today or yesterday, where he was like, you show like ChatGPT to your average person, and they're like, "Whoa, this is really cool. Maybe I'll use it instead of Google." 20 minutes later, they're just like on with their day. You show it to like a tech nerd or geek or like futurist, and they're like, their life is just changed forever. They're just like, their mind is blown. And they're like, oh my God, everything's going to change. And they're just immediately sucked into this rabbit hole. And I think the majority of the world hasn't even used it. And of those who have used it, there's still a very large percentage who are just like, oh yeah, it's cool tech. It's, you know, it's just like the new technology. Yeah.
Right. It reminds me of an old stand-up bit I saw from someone. I feel like I've actually might have talked about this on the podcast before, but they were basically talking about the degree to which humans are just jaded at this point. Right. And they were like, can you imagine if one day, you know, we found a gorilla that could speak completely perfect English, right? It would be the biggest possible thing. People would have their minds blown. And 4 days later, they'd just be like, oh yeah, like that's Frank the talking gorilla, and completely moved on from their lives with it. And it's totally true. And I feel like there's a lot of that probably where some people will have that initial reaction of, wow, this technology really is crazy. I can't believe it's doing that. I think I have some people in my life that when I've shown them parts of it sort of have that reaction, but then are very able to just move on, and they have their other stuff going on rather than going like, what else can I use this for? What will it be in 3 months time? And all of the bigger implications that some people are more curious about.
Yeah, you've definitely said that on the show, and it's true. It's like we're just very adaptable as a species, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'm reminded of the the Louis C.K. bit I think he did on Conan a decade or plus ago, where he was talking about how he was on a plane and the newest, like he was talking about how like entitled people are today, and how like the newest technical thing ever was like internet on planes. He was like, this is the latest thing, Wi-Fi on planes. He was sitting on there, and like the Wi-Fi went down. It stopped working for whatever reason. And the guy next to him like slams his laptop shut. I was like, this is bullshit. Like, come on. I was like, this has just happened. Like, how quickly
we're in a
do you
magical tube flying.
Yeah. 40 years ago, we had to go from. It took us 3 months to get from East Coast to West, and a bunch of people would die along the way. Or 100 years ago,
of dysentery.
Yeah, and now you're upset because your Wi-Fi, on-air Wi-Fi isn't, and it's just. It's true as well. We adapt so quickly and get used to which is, it's. I imagine we've evolved because it's helped us in a lot of instances to not just wallow in the past. And a lot of other stuff.
Another one that's sort of happened in real life is that it seems like lately the United States government has been like, yeah, it kind of actually seems like there are UFOs. Like the Pentagon has been releasing videos and going, no. Like this, we have no idea what the fuck this is. And we've known about them for a long time. And, for some people that were obsessed with it for the longest time, those are the people, right, that are already obsessed with it.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, it's like, well, that's crazy. And then I still got to figure out what to eat for lunch today and all of that shit.
I heard I've seen like a slight uptick in people talking about UFOs and like in my mind it's like, oh yeah, just a few more conspiracy theories going on. I didn't realize there's like actual.
No, the Pentagon has released videos.
Yeah.
That they go, we have no fucking idea. Now again, the difference between UFO in the strictest sense, right? Unidentified flying object versus this is an alien spacecraft. There's a difference there, right?
Yeah.
But still going, it's not necessarily the droplet from Three Body Problem, but we don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. What a great trilogy.
I actually was thinking a little bit about that the other day. The degree to which this AI is advancing here, right? And the amount that I've thought in the past sort of about aliens and are you familiar with the Drake equation? What's called the Drake equation? Mm-hmm. The weirdness of how hard it is to come up with an answer to that doesn't result in there being tons of species. I've just been thinking more lately about, how many of the civilizations, so to speak, would theoretically not actually really be organic at some point, right? Like, or sort of the dark forest type idea of not wanting to stick your head out of the hole because you'll just get it lopped off by one of these AIs out there that, have a Dyson sphere or more worth of energy.
Yeah. Like I've been thinking about that a lot as well. Just like, with how quickly AI is going and like projecting forward, we're like, all right, in 10, 20, 50 years, when it's, when we get AGI, if it can upgrade itself, if it can, all that kind of stuff, then it's not that unrealistic. Like it can go to Mars, it can go to other planets and like survive there and then leapfrog and set up colonies. And like, it doesn't have to worry as much about the heat or the cold or.
At some point, it's all very, very early here, right? But the issues eventually become, I would think, just very, physics and thermodynamics related, right? How much energy can we harness? How many actual physical resources can we get? Because, the AI can do all the stuff within the machine. It's very interesting. But eventually, when you want to do things like collect more energy, right? You need to build solar panels, and to build solar panels, you need atoms. You have to do atomic stuff. I don't know. Have you seen people actually talking about, how software was so successful, right? Software Eats the World was like this big article written by Horowitz or whatever. And it's been very true for a long time, but now we're getting to this point with, ChatGPT, right? Where software engineers are increasingly very not valuable as we have this AI that can code for us. And now the new thing is kind of, we're going to go back in some sense to manufacturing or people that are dealing with actual physical atoms, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing is going to be sort of the new thing that has the sort of the built-in defense mechanism against all of this other stuff that, which is also funny too, because it seems like if you go back to like maybe let's say the 1980s or whatever, and you thought about the future of robotics and stuff, it was very much the blue collar type of jobs that people were expecting to get replaced.
Yeah.
And now, you know, in a huge surprise to almost everyone, it looks like the very rigorous intellectual stuff that we thought was supposed to be the safer stuff is way less safe.
And not even that. It's like, it's, yes, the rigorous intellectual stuff like coding and mathematical analytics. But I think what surprised a lot of people, including me, is like the creative side as well, like artists and writers and musicians, because now you can just write some stuff and bang, it's creative.
But yes, I agree with that. But to me, it was like that they were already a part of society that was struggling and not feeling like they had this level of, you know, confidence and security. Whereas like if you thought about like lawyers and programmers and stuff like this, these were people that were very important, very well paid, and very sure that the next, you know, iteration of the iPhone or whatever they thought technology cycles looked like was not going to be a threat to them at all. And now they're maximally threatened.
Yeah. The who was it? Goldman Sachs released an article a day or two ago, or a report, where they said that they expect 2/3 of jobs in the US and EU to be like threatened by AI, 300 million jobs worldwide. And the two areas that they think are most likely to be hit are administrative jobs and legal jobs. Which
I saw the 300 million figure. I didn't see any of the other ancillary stuff you gave around that, which seemed like a low number to me. But I guess also if you do look at like a lot of less developed countries, there's still a lot of people are in very rural agrarian places. Just there's a lot of subsistence or just above subsistence farming still happening, and stuff like that, to where maybe 300 million. I mean, I assume they have a better idea than me what percentage of the population is in the...
It also depends on the time frame. Like, are they talking about in the next 5 years?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because it's 100% if you extend the time frame out enough, right?
Yeah. What do you think
We've been going for a long time. This is still theoretically the news of the week. Do we want to...
I don't think we have...
Think about wrapping it up?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about AI forever.
I know we could, but you know, theoretically, we'd like to record another episode in a week. So
do it next week, right. All right, we'll leave the additional AI chat for next week. All right, Jamie, I'm going to ask you. Roy. I'm going to ask you questions. Normally, it's you asking me. The last couple of many episodes, but we recently started doing something on our Zen Daily Twitter Space. Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. PST. Everyone should check it out. It's a lot of fun. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we play Who Wants to Be a Zillionaire? Obviously, a copy of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, popular quiz show. And we ask people 6 questions. If they get all 6 correct, they get a Zen chest. You will win some pride points if you get all 6 correct.
Okay.
Today,
by the way, I feel... Sorry. When we were talking about gaming maybe 30 minutes ago on this podcast, I had a wave of euphoria rush over me as I thought about how I just beat you at chess, and almost like I've been not letting myself play other games like that I'm really interested in playing because I've been so interested in chess. But possibly I have a monkey off of my back now that I beat you, and I can go play a little bit of Hearthstone again or something because I beat Roy at chess. Anyway, go ahead.
There you go. Today on the show on Thursday the 30th, we're having Gabe Weiss on. He is founder of the Stoics Project, and it seemed perfect because we have 6 Stoic-based questions. You consider yourself a Stoic, Jamie?
I mean no disrespect. I've not heard of this guy. I feel like the only modern person that I know that's associated with Stoicism is Ryan Holiday.
Right? Yeah. I mean, he is not like.
I read some of the old stuff, so I'm not. I don't really.
No, I mean he's not
as into the space
as popular, I guess, is Ryan Holiday. He is an artist and he is in the NFT space and has a collection, but it's not like, it's not blown up. So unless you know him or into the circle, you probably wouldn't have known him. But actually, I met him in Vegas when I was there in October, and he did some live drawing. Really nice guy. All right. The questions will get harder as time goes on. Let's see how you do. I just realized 2 of the questions are based on the actual NFT collection. So I might ask 2 questions will be non-stoicism related. I'll just go get random questions. The multiple choice as well, FYI.
Okay.
Question number 1. Which famous Roman emperor was a Stoic philosopher? A. Julius Caesar. B. Marcus Aurelius. C. Nero. Or D. Augustus.
Okay, first of all, Julius Caesar was not even an emperor, so it's not him. Also, it was B. Marcus Aurelius.
Correct. Oh god, that's
Augustus. Arguably not an emperor too, right? He was a princeps.
You would know.
He was the first emperor. We all call him the first emperor, but in some way he wasn't.
Next question. Who is the founder of Stoicism? A. If you know the answer, I guess you can get bonus points by blurting it out before I go through multiple choice. But A. Marcus Aurelius. B. Epictetus. C. Seneca. Or D. Zeno of Citium.
I believe it was Zeno. Epictetus definitely had one of the most famous writings of Stoic writing, but I don't think that he was the founder. I'm going to say D. Zeno.
That is correct. Epictetus. I always say Epictetus, but I think your pronunciation sounds more correct.
Yeah, but I think actually, the hard C is like a thing that they used to use. So I think yours actually, pick would be what they would have used more likely.
You say archetypes, so I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
What are the 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism? A. Wealth, courage, power, and temperance.
No.
B. Wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. C. Justice, intelligence, strength, and creativity. D. Wisdom, justice, endurance, and flexibility.
It sounds like it's either B or D to me. Can you repeat those 2?
B was wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. D. Wisdom, justice, endurance, and flexibility.
I'm going to go with D.
D, is that your final answer?
Yes.
It was B. Wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. This was tough. This was question 6 on the list, which is always the toughest. Because,
I could see that. I could confidently narrow it down to those 2, but it felt like the way I think of it, D was a little better.
Flexibility is, it seems like one of the parts of it.
Just deal with anything.
Yeah. All right, so we'll give away some. We'll run a giveaway for some Tez NFTs.
Yes, we will.
The password will be
Epictetus. Zeno. Okay. Zeno.
Zeno. All lowercase. I think. Yeah.
It hasn't been created yet, so we can do whatever. But
there you go.
What was our standard format? Was all lowercase?
That's what I'm trying to remember. I can't remember.
Let's just say it, and then Vitor will have to do it. All lowercase.
All lowercase.
Zeno.
Zeno. I think that's it.
This has been episode 72 of the podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Sorry for not having a new episode for you guys for the longest time. But we're back.
We'll be back next week, and
and we're here this week.
All right. Do something nice. Drink some water, stretch, donate blood, and follow us on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, and follow us on Twitter, even though I just deleted the Twitter app on my phone.
Go subscribe to Jamie's Substack, then. Maybe he'll write something in the next...
I will eventually.
...year. All right. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you.